Hey sports fans, it's time for Between the Lines, an opinionated look at the week in sports. Now, from the showroom of Napleton Infinity in Augusta, Georgia, here's the stars of our show, Will Avery, Roy Peak, and the Mac Daddy, Charles McNeil.
Dogs got drubbed at Death Valley. And welcome to another edition of Between the Lines. This is show number 2. Happy to have the guys back with me and jump right into you, Will. This was not, I know, at all what you expected to be watching on a Saturday afternoon.
Not at all. It was our first real test, and obviously we didn't pass it. A lot went wrong yesterday. When I looked at both of these teams, the strengths of both teams, I felt like we would be able to run the football. We came into the game ranked 16th in the country in rushing against the LSU team that had just gave up 215 yards on the ground to Florida. So I thought we would be able to run the ball, control the time, maybe force a turnover or two, and we would come out, with the win. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. Hats off to LSU. They're a good football team. They've beaten 3 top 10 teams in this young season already, and I think they're only going to get better. The good thing for Georgia, they have the bye week. We can clean up some things. Kirby Smart gets to prove his leadership here and getting the guys back together. And I think he has a tough test here, as I think that locker room is going to be a little divided now. You hear fans and a lot of people calling for more Fields. Fromm clearly couldn't make plays in a big game on the road yesterday. So he has a week or two to get things under control and get this football team back on the right track.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in this game, we found out what happened when the cat chases the dog. The cats got after the dogs this weekend, and they were relentless. But besides the game, to me, it was funny to see how fast the Georgia fans jumped off the bandwagon. Go back to last year, the national championship game. I'd never seen a team so happy after a loss. They were excited about this year coming in. They said Georgia's the Alabama of the East. Kirby Smart is the next Nick Saban. They had the best running backs in the conference. And they may have, but they have the offensive coordinator not putting those guys to use. And when you get down to 4th and goal and you want to run the ball, you don't use your kicker. I mean, you got the fastest guys in the conference. They say all of them running over 20 miles per hour. I don't know what they're using to judge them with, but I think the play calling let the team down. And Kirby Smart after the game was talking about how the losses on him. But what I've read, he's diming out on Jake Fromm, saying he missed throws. Jake Fromm didn't read the defense. The wide receivers missed routes. I mean, if you're a leader, if you're going to take the blame for it, take the blame for it.
Man, I can't wait till Alabama get tested. He has all the answers. But a lot of that's right. We do have the best running backs in the league. Fromm did miss some throws. He missed some reads. He didn't, you're a quarterback for a big-time team that's in national championship contention now year in and year out. You got to make those plays, and you got to be able to come away with wins like this on the road.
Maybe Fromm isn't the answer.
That could be true. We definitely will find out soon.
The thing about Georgia, and I've covered them over the years, they always seem to have another quarterback waiting in the wings. So we'll see if the young fella will get a chance down the stretch, or whether it'll be, Jake from State Farm coming through again for the Georgia Bulldogs to get him back in that top 4, which is very, very coveted. Let's look at the rest of the SEC and start with your account, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Alabama
is still offensively looking good, but what disappointed me this week is their inability to finish inside the red zone. They got in 3 times and settled for field goals. Fortunately, the kicker was on this week, but we can't rely on that. Defensively, they stepped it up. Alabama lost their starting cornerback, and the backup, Savion Smith, stepped in, had 2 interceptions, almost took one to the house. There's a lot to be encouraged about.
Alabama's by far the best team in the country. Had a little scare with the quarterback, but I don't think it's anything serious. And the defense looked really good yesterday. I thought Missouri would be able to sling it around, spread them out, and put some points up on the board. And Alabama's secondary accepted the challenge and played pretty good. And if they get that corrected right now, and I hate to say this, but I don't see anybody beating them right now. They look really good yesterday.
Yeah, I was thinking they might be able to challenge one of the NFL teams, like the New York Giants, possibly down the stretch if Eli doesn't turn things around. But let's get back to SEC and Florida. Quite impressive in their last couple of week run as they prepare for the big event down in Jacksonville.
It's going to be a big game between Georgia and Florida coming up. I'm glad Georgia has the bye week to clean up some things, but Florida's played well, and they're going to be ready for this game. A lot of those teams, I still think is a chance that you can get 2 SEC teams in that top 4, and a lot of these teams control their own destiny. And I think this is one of them. You know, it's almost come to a double elimination college football tournament. You know, long as you don't lose 2, you're still in it.
But let's keep it moving. We talked about Florida, your thoughts about them, but also about Texas A&M and Jimbo in his first year from Florida State.
Jimbo, you know, he's proven that he can coach. But we'll go back to Florida. Florida, their success rides on the play of Felipe Franks. I mean, if he's consistent and they have athletes as usual, then they should be good. The defense is stepping up. They have a pretty good defensive front. And I like what they have, but the SEC is a different beast. Going back to Jimbo's going to have that team around another year of recruiting. They should be one of the threats in the conference.
Very underrated defense Texas A&M has as well. I think we're used to Sumlin and him spreading you out and putting up a lot of points on the board, but they're not bad defensively.
All right, let's keep it moving. The top 10 teams in the country, saw 4 of them go down to defeat. Will, where do you want to start?
The one that surprised me the most was Michigan State going into Penn State on homecoming and winning. I thought Penn State was a really good football team, and you know that was probably the worst loss of the weekend. All the other teams were on the road, but this one shocked me the most, and that's pretty much it for Penn State. You know.
Yeah, to me, I'm just tired of being fooled by these pretenders. I mean, you have Notre Dame, they're pretenders.
I think Notre Dame is legit, though. I mean, you saw Michigan yesterday play well against Wisconsin, and Notre Dame handled them pretty easy, man. I think Notre Dame is legit. I actually like Notre Dame a lot more than I like Clemson.
Well, we know how your picks go. But Notre Dame, I just don't have the confidence in their quarterback book. I mean, they otherwise they have athletes, but not the speed type athletes. They have strong guys and they play well together, but I just don't see them making it in the top 4.
I mean, it's typical Notre Dame in this regard. They're not a team that's going to be overly flashy. You know, they've got guys that are serviceable and they make the plays that need to be made to come up with the victories. The most important thing I think for Notre Dame fans is that they are able to keep up that intensity because they generally play down to the level of their competition. All right, let's keep things moving, guys, and we'll get to our top 4 in just a minute. But before we get there, we got to talk a little bit about quarterbacks on the move. And one particular, everybody knows Kelly Bryant decided to transfer from Clemson a couple of weeks ago. And as a result, he's already gone out and visited at the University of North Carolina just up the road. And that would be an interesting thing to keep him in conference. But also he has a trip planned for Arkansas. First of all, Will, where do you think he'll land? And what would be the best fit for him? And then the secondary thing is, you know, how does this impact the landscape of college football where players will be able to just kind of leave their teams in midstream and move on the following year?
Him being a kid from South Carolina, I think he ends up at North Carolina, get a chance to go back and play Clemson. But one of the things about this is it proves to me that he doesn't care about winning. You know, with the schools he's visiting, he clearly just wants to play. I don't know if it's to prepare himself for a shot at playing in the NFL, but you know, those schools kind of shocked me. But I can see him going to North Carolina just to come back and have a chance to defeat Clemson. But it's gonna happen a lot. You know, here's a guy on a top 3 team in the country that's willing to move and go to a team that's barely making a bowl. And so you're going to see this happen a lot, because I think the ultimate goal for these quarterbacks is to be able to play on Sunday, and they're going to move if that means they get an opportunity to throw the ball.
Yeah, I would advise Bryant to stay out of the SEC, go to the ACC, where his defense is not as strong. I mean, he's going to get exposed, and that's going to hurt his draft value, which he's trying to increase. So North Carolina would be the best fit to me.
All right, let's stay right here. Roy, it's time for your top 4.
Well, we're going to start at the top. Of course, at number one, I got Alabama. Like I said, the defense played well, and they're starting to mature. And even with the loss of a starting cornerback, we had one step in and play well. At number two, I'm going with Clemson. Clemson is a great running team. I think as the year goes around, Trevor Lawrence gets more comfortable, and they'll try to expand his offensive package more. At number three, I'm going Ohio State. Ohio State is explosive offense, but Ohio State has a tendency to play to the level of their competition. It's 2 weeks in a row where the game was in doubt in the fourth quarter, and if they want to compete at an elite level, they have to fix that. They have to come ready to play every week. At number four, I know this is going to be a somewhat controversial pick, but I still think they're one of the four best teams in the country. I'm going with the Georgia Bulldogs, believe it or not. I love the athletes they have. It's just the play calling yesterday was atrocious in my opinion, but if they get from more confidence, then I think they'll be fine. I'm going with Georgia at 4.
Wow. I'm almost speechless here. All right, Will, what do you have in your top 4?
I have Alabama at the top right now. They've been the best football team, no doubt about it. Number 2, I have Ohio State. They have the athletes, they have the playmakers. Quarterback is up for the Heisman, has a good chance of winning it because he's playing 4 quarters. And I think a lot of them playing down to the competition may have a lot to do with not having their head coach for the first part of the season. I think they're only going to get better, and I think they're going to run through that conference once they do. Number 3 for me is Notre Dame. I like Notre Dame. Just the victory over Michigan right now is one of the best victories of any of the teams in the top 4. And right now, I'm going to go with Clemson at number 4. Very weak schedule, but this week at NC State could be a real test for them.
Yeah, and my 4 looked just like Will's, but just with a small flip-flop because I decided I didn't want it to be exactly like yours. So I'm starting off with Bama, of course, number 1. My number 2 team is going to be a shocker. It's Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. I just told you why a few minutes ago, why I think they have a chance of doing it. Plus, their strength of schedule as the schedule wears on will benefit them. Ohio State, number 3. A close, just beneath Notre Dame, easily could be number 2. And we're going to finish it off with the Clemson Tigers. And again, Clemson, if they put everything together, they could be one of the top teams and competing for the national championship. Well, that wraps up.
Drinking that Notre Dame Kool-Aid, I'm telling you.
Yeah, it tastes really good in Napleton's glasses here.
And they have a tougher schedule than Clemson.
We're here broadcasting live from Napleton Infinity. Hope that you'll be able to stop by and visit them in the upcoming weeks and tell them how much you appreciate the Between the Lines program being right here. Roy and Will be back with me in just a couple of seconds, and we're going to talk NFL football and the NBA. It's up next on Between the Lines.